Do the trashy pulp novels of the world have anything to offer? Are bestsellers all they're cracked up to be? Here at Terrible Book Club, we explore whether you really can judge a book by its cover, or its ridiculous synopsis. You ever passed a book and thought, ugh, who's reading this? We probably are.
Hello and welcome to episode 212 of the Terrible Book Club. I'm Paris and this is Chris.
Hello.
This time I read Rabid Heart by Jeremy Wagner, published in 2018 by Riverdale Avenue Books. I had never heard of this publisher, so I went to their website. Listeners, if you're in a safe place away from work and children, please also go to riverdaleavenuebooks.com and enjoy a self-guided tour. I have a feeling we'll be returning to this publisher again in the future.
Okay, all right.
Chris, why don't you take a gander at their website?
What was the publisher name again?
riverdaleavenuebooks.com.
Okay. Oh, yeah, we got The Only Criminal. We got Christmas Spirits. We've got Like a Breath of Flame, which looks like there is a princess lady perhaps about to make out with a dragon.
Okay,
on the front of that one.
Yep.
We've got something called Reservation High with a bunch of dream catchers on the cover.
Oh, no. That's okay.
Questionable.
Yep.
There's Learning Curves, book 2 of the Sex University series.
Okay, yep. It's great. All right.
Okay, I see what you mean here. There's also something called Monarch Season, which just has like two dudes running on a beach. It's just a photo of two dudes on the beach.
Yeah,
running.
The images really do a lot on this website. But, anyway, everybody needs a publisher, right? Everyone needs a publisher, yes. Okay, anyway, somehow we ended up with another zombie romance for Valentine's Day, which I just realized and I'm now mad at myself for because we did that last year with a very different book.
Can't escape it.
I know. I ended up reading Rabid Heart because my partner one day said to me last year, "Hey, did you realize Jeremy Wagner from Broken Hope is an author?" Which piqued my interest since I remember Broken Hope's comeback show at MDF like 12 or so years ago. And I don't know, I remember it kind of fondly. It's not usually my type of death metal, but something about that show was extra fun, and every now and then when I'm feeling ignorant as fuck, I want some dumb slammy shit and may put on Grotesque Blessings. When I'm reading for TBC, that's kind of peak I am feeling dumb and also full of rage, so I listen to a lot of Broken Hope while reading this. And I gotta say, Jeremy Wagner has a theme and he's sticking to it.
Oh yeah? Is the book just all slam riffs somehow?
Yes. Anyway. If this is your first time listening to this show, what we do at the Terrible Book Club is read books that we assume will be bad based on their cover, title, summary, or some combination of the three. Sometimes we read books that our patrons, listeners, or friends recommend. And so typically we're doing the opposite of what most people do when they're in a bookstore or while they're browsing the internet. Typically, this experiment results in a disappointing and hilarious read, but once in a while, we actually end up liking the book. In addition to our usual barnyard language, today's episode includes zombies, weapons, violence, sexual assault, and gore. Have you listened to a Brutal Slam record recently? It's that.
Okay.
It's that.
Yeah, you're really getting the short end of the stick this season so far, Paris, in terms of content warnings.
It's not looking good for the next one either. I just tell you.
Forecast is poor.
Somehow Chris is just having all this fun, no ethical trapping.
I've orchestrated all of this, actually. You wonder why I suggested this?
All right. So here is the back of the book summary. I do not have a physical copy. I just have electronic ones. So this is the Amazon summary, which presumably is what you're reading to pull you in and make you buy this book. How far would you go for love when all you love is dead? 6 months after the necro-rabies pandemic has turned the world into hordes of rabid undead, known as Cujos, 21-year-old Rhonda Driscoll discovers her zombified fiancé Brad in her old hometown. Fearing that her Marine Colonel father will kill undead Brad, Rhonda flees, taking a road trip with Brad in tow in hopes of starting a new life in
the
a
ultimate
frightening
dad with a gun trope there. You're not dating a zombie in this house, young lady. Buster brains.
In hopes of starting a new life in a frightening and uncertain world complicated by numerous perils, pure horror, joy, heartbreak, and unconditional love. Rabid Heart has been nominated for the Splatterpunk
There's
Award.
a condition on my love. I'm sorry, but if you are an actively shambling corpse, there's a condition on my love.
Well, not for Rhonda. Rabid Heart has been nominated for the Splatterpunk Award Best Horror Novel, has received an independent publisher's Ippy Bronze Medal Award for both Best Sci-Fi Fantasy Horror Ebook and for Best Book Author Publisher Website for www.jeremy-wagner.com.
A lot of slash category. Real stew of a category happening.
Which was designed by Wagner's close friend and digital strategist, Tony Bosco. So Tony won the award for Best
I'm Tony
Website.
Bosco. I got my award stew.
Okay. It has also received a 2019 Next Generation Indie Book Award and was a finalist for both Best Horror Novel and Best Overall Book Design. Strange inclusions for a book summary for me, but all right.
High acclaim, it sounds like.
Especially for that website that has nothing to do with the fucking book. So strange. All right. Our characters and setting here. Actually, forget. Sorry. All right, we are in 6-month post-zombie outbreak, North Carolina. At the beginning, that's kind of where this all starts, and then we're sort of driving down I-95 towards Florida. So think of like a shitty family vacation you went on. That's probably the route that Rhonda's on for most of this book.
Okay.
All right, our main character is Rhonda Driscoll. Again, she is 21. Brad, Rhonda's boyfriend. Colonel Rondad is the only way I thought about her dad, so Colonel Rondad. We've got Tyler and Ellen who show up maybe halfway through. These are two child siblings who sure can't shoot a gun and wield a golf club.
All right.
And then there's just a bunch of other nameless military people and zombies and like named but ultimately pointless villains, so I don't care. I'm not including them.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Fair.
All right. All right, Chris, please do not look at the summary because I will have trivia for you throughout.
Won't.
Great.
I'm using my blindness to my advantage here.
All right. And as a reminder, listeners, we have changed the format of the show this year to make it a little more sustainable. So each host we alternate and have our own episode where we tell the other host about the book we've read. We give a longer summary and sort of include some fun trivia-like questions throughout to keep us all engaged on the way. And then we go through our little rubric, and then it's the end of the show. So a little different this time around. So to be clear, Chris did not read this. I did. So I'm going to tell Chris all about it and ask him what he thinks at certain points.
I'm ready.
All right, Chris.
I have a rabid heart for Rabid Heart.
Yes. All right. We're 6 months into a necro-rabies outbreak in America. All right, Chris, how do you think this zombie outbreak begins?
Immediately. Oh, shit.
Yeah. Because every zombie outbreak is like a little every story, every alternate future is a little different. So what's the flavor of this one? How does it start? What do you think?
Oh, a free response. Rabies. A dead bat bit someone's like stepped and tripped and fell into the tooth of some dead animal that was rabid before dying is going to be my bet. And then there was like an instant vaccine made for it because we have like a rabies vaccine, technically. Not a vaccine, but like like if you go real quick before like symptoms set in.
Yeah.
After you get a bite. So that didn't happen because people were like, fuck these vaccines. And then we have a necro-rabies outbreak.
Okay. All right. You're not. All right. You get partial credit for that one.
Okay.
Because it does involve an animal and it does involve a virus in a lab. So this outbreak starts because the virus escaped a U.S. military lab. Scientists somehow thought giving 10,000 rats a virus they were still trying to understand intended to reanimate fallen soldiers in battle was a cool idea. Obviously, this was very uncool.
Two at a time, maybe?
10,000 rats bit and infected all the scientists and quickly escaped into the greater civilian population off the military base. So
they all had the 10,000 rats in like one giant rat vat. That someone unlocked that by accident.
Well, I think really they only gave it to two of them, or to a few of them, but then that spread to the rest of them because they were very violent and, very stupid fucking idea. Anyway, Chris, actually this question doesn't matter because it already said it in the fucking back of the book summary. God damn it. My question was going to be...
I wasn't paying attention enough.
Okay, what have these zombies been nicknamed in this universe and why?
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. It's the Cujos, you're right. So
yes.
This is pointless.
But why are they nicknamed Cujos?
Cujo was a Stephen King novel about also like a zombie dog or something, like just like an evil dog of some kind. I'd never read it. I just know that it was a dog-based Stephen King horror novel.
Yes,
so
you are correct.
Because the zombies act like rabid dogs.
Yep.
They're called Cujos.
Correct. The necrorabies zombies have been named Cujos after the rabid Stephen King dog and book of the same name, as these zombies are the aggressive, fast varietal of undead who are attracted to lights and sounds. Yes. And fun fact, Stephen King was so deep in alcoholism while writing Cujo that he's actually sad that he doesn't remember writing it because he read it later and was like, oh, I did a pretty good book there. And he's like, I don't remember doing it, though. That's too bad.
Man, if only we could all be at such levels of creativity that you could shit something out that's actually pretty good while having no actual temporal knowledge while you're doing it, of it happening.
Wild. All right. Despite being pretty quickly labeled with the boob big sticker, our lead girl, Rhonda, does actually have some depth. She only survived the initial outbreak because her dad
in the boobs, like in between.
Yes. She only survived the initial outbreak because her dad is a Marine colonel, and she is very much aware of that. So there is some self-awareness that, like, oh man, I really lucked out. She misses her high school sweetheart fiance, Brad, terribly, as she presumes he is dead, and the author is sure to squeeze in a few sentences to tell us just how furiously she masturbates about it.
Okay. All right.
Rhonda...
I bet being written by someone that does like slam death, like that's not a great read masturbation scene.
It was like 2 sentences. But
okay.
worth mentioning. Rhonda now lives at Fort Rocky, aka Camp Deadnut, a North Carolina military outpost with about 200 other survivors, about half of which are military and half civilian, run by Colonel Rondad, her dad. Colonel Rondad is just what I called him.
Cushy place to be in the zombie apocalypse.
Yep. Again, very lucky. Despite being a hairdresser pre-outbreak, she goes on missions with the soldiers because she's the daughter of the head guy and can handle a gun, I guess.
Like, listen, you can handle like straightening hair. This is the same shit, right? It's just as dangerous.
She grew up shooting because her dad taught her about weapons and stuff. But still a little weird. They're like, I think there's even a couple sentences in the book that are like, yeah, it's kind of weird that a civilian was asked to go on this mission, but I don't know. On one of these missions to find food and supplies, Rhonda is paired up with a rapist creep from her high school and sent to the town she was living in at the time of the outbreak. Nostalgia leads her back to her townhouse, even though the colonel and sergeant both tell her that under no circumstances should she get sentimental while on a mission and return to somewhere familiar or try to find loved ones. So, Chris, what happens at the townhouse?
She finds Brad. Like, that's where she finds Brad. He's like just locked up in that townhouse for some reason. That they were all like, don't go to that townhouse because we locked up Brad and we don't want you to know.
I mean, you're correct. She does find Brad. I mean, that is also in the back of the book summary. But can you guess what else happens and sort of how they find Brad?
Okay, well, you mentioned the creepy tag-along guy.
Mm-hmm.
So she wanders off. He attempts to corner her, and then he is eaten by Brad.
Ding, ding, ding! Chris, you are passing this quiz with flying colors.
What do you know? It turns out a decade of reading terrible books means I can kind of predict this shit.
And also like 20 or 30 years of your life listening to brutal slam death probably.
Yes.
Probably helps a little bit too.
I neglected to include that on my resume, but it turns out I'm very skilled.
With your powers combined, you've got Rabid Heart in your clutches.
The
all right.
2 things I have going for me.
So, of course, while at her forbidden town home, rapist creep decides to live up to his nickname, but luckily Rhonda's boyfriend Brad is hiding in the closet and kills him before he can complete his assault. Unfortunately, Brad is a zombie, but somehow still remembers Rhonda and is not aggressive toward her through the magic of love or something. So she cleans him up. how does Rhonda clean up and disguise her zombie boyfriend, Chris?
Oh, okay, that's tricky.
Few components to this. I will give you at least partial credit if you get one of them or two of them right.
My boyfriend's a zombie. I needed to get him past military dad so that we could have sex in the cover of darkness or whatever. I'm gonna have to patch up like the open weeping wounds or something. So like minimally like a lot of coverage on the body, right? Like long sleeves, long pants. A hoodie, if it can be done without me also succumbing to the zombie virus.
So you get a point for redressing him. I'm gonna say there's 2 other main components, but there's a bonus 4th if you can get it.
Can I get a mask on him to like cover his face?
Okay,
perhaps?
Let's think about what else could go on your face that isn't a mask, but also provides some coverage.
Like a scarf, a balaclava,
not winter. It's not cold. It's like summer, actually.
I don't want anything on my face in the summer unless it's like a mask because I'm sick. So I don't know. I'm gonna cede there, but I also think maybe some like makeup or like face putty or of some. You're gesturing at me with the thing that I should fucking think of. Glasses wouldn't hide wounds. They would, in fact, probably draw attention.
Big sunglasses that are mirrored.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, like gas station sunglasses. I'm hungover as fuck.
Big ass.
Okay.
Yeah, big ass sunglasses. Yep.
That's still probably not going to help with like the teeth falling out of your mouth, but okay. Okay, so yeah, I was just like a lot of coverage, a lot of clothing. And like, I don't know, maybe some makeup or silly putty or special effects shit happening.
All right, what else instead of makeup? What was Rhonda's job before?
Hey, a wig.
Right.
Just like a big old wig. Okay.
No, well, okay, so you got this like 60% right. So she does redress him, but just in a t-shirt and shorts because it's summer. We don't want like some unseasonable clothing tipping you off.
Okay, if he's not wounded on the arms, I guess. I don't know how.
No, he doesn't have. Yeah, he doesn't have any like big gaping wounds or anything. So I guess that's fine. He's very pale though, so I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, so she redresses him. Puts does his hair. She like slicks his hair back and like makes it look done, basically.
But he's rabid at so he's just docile enough for like his hair to be done.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. She puts their fluffy fucking handcuffs on him and, hopes that those big sunglasses are enough to hide his Cujo-ness, just like me when I need to leave the house without makeup on.
Wait, but he's handcuffed as she's walking him around?
Yeah.
So hands behind his back, handcuffed?
Yeah, uh-huh.
And that draws less suspicion. Okay.
All right.
Sure.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. His hands are in front of him. They are in front of him.
Even still, they're the big, obvious fucking handcuffs.
Yeah, they're like red and fluffy, I think, or pink and fluffy.
Extremely conspicuous handcuffs, I would say.
Well, got to take precautions when you've got your... She also puts a ball gag in his mouth from their fuck closet or whatever.
Okay. So...
Sorry, there were 5 components to this. I fucked that up.
Oh, okay. So, like, I get that this is to make it so that if he breaks off into a rabid frenzy, because apparently this type of rabies is, like, comes in waves or something instead of just, like, a constant kind of thing happening. But, like, it doesn't solve the hiding his rabidness, because if I was involved in a zombie outbreak of people that were rabid and you brought someone that was handcuffed and ball gagged, I'd be like, why do you have that person handcuffed and ball gagged?
Yeah, this immediately doesn't make any sense. But anyway, so there's like sorry, I didn't mention the details of the mission, but like they're dropped off in a helicopter and told like, all right, go scavenge for an hour, meet back at the rendezvous point, get in the copter and jet. Of course, like some of them, meet with zombies. There's some fire. There's sort of chaos going on, and they're like, Rhonda, where the fuck are you? Get back to the rendezvous. And she's like, all right. And so in the chaos, she just jumps onto a helicopter with Brad. And obviously, when she boards the helicopter with a Cujo Brad as they're taking off, everyone is fucking pissed. Like,
major transgression, big faux pas.
Yeah.
So it didn't even work. The disguise didn't even work.
No, Colonel Rondad already disliked Brad before he was a zombie. So you can imagine his rage at her bringing this dude back to their survival camp in an undead
I told
state.
you, no Brad, and especially no zombies. To bring Brad as a zombie is a bridge too far on.
Yeah. He is rightfully pissed at her for breaking quarantine and gives her a speech about how there's more important stuff to do than play house with her infected fiance. Conveniently, they have a doctor at the camp who, quote-unquote, thinks he's onto something with his, quote-unquote, ideas on pacifying Cujos. So, Dr. Brightmore is a gynecologist, but potentially the last living doctor, so he figures he's gonna try something to help humanity. I get it.
Okay, listen, spread your legs, Brad. We're going to have to really...
I feel like that's what a doctor would do no matter what their specialty was, right? You gotta try, right? You took the Hippocratic Oath.
Yeah.
So Colonel Rondad reluctantly grants Brad the position of zombie test subject until the doc no longer has a use for him. Within a day, though, Colonel Rondad double-crosses his daughter and orders Brightmore to kill Brad. But Brightmore tells Rhonda, and she hatches, quite possibly the dumbest plan ever, to escape by herself into the zombie wastelands with Brad in tow. She packs a meager 2 boxes of supplies, steals a Humvee, and 2 guards let her leave without paperwork or orders because she's the Colonel's daughter, even when they see Brad ball-gagged and without sunglasses on in the backseat. This part makes absolutely no fucking sense. But anyhow...
You're not going to unleash Brad to, like, get the guards out of the way, at least? Or, like,
no, you don't want to create more zombies. But their whole ruse is she's like, yeah, we're going to go have kinky sex in the wasteland. And they're like, okay.
What? Wait, hold on. You can't. The guards are like, wait, you're going to fuck that zombie?
No.
There's no concern about body?
Somehow they don't notice he's a zombie. This part, again, I was like, no.
So there's a new person. The guards are here ostensibly on a very small, like, cadre of people.
Yeah.
You said like a couple hundred. You said
200 people.
And there's a new guy who looks real pale and weird that is handcuffed and possibly ball gagged right now.
Yes.
That the Colonel's daughter would be like, I'm leaving to fuck this guy.
She doesn't say that outright, but that's like, they make a joke about it, and she's like, yeah, that's it. And they're like, well, be careful. Like, you don't want to do that. So, I don't know. They let her out, which, again,
Chill guards. Super chill guards, which is not the type of guards you want at the gate of your anti-zombie compound. We need the unchillest guards.
Very true. But, anyhow, they escape into the great zombie unknown with no longer term plan besides... What is Rhonda's destination, Chris?
You mentioned Florida before, so I'm going to guess, like, Disney as a way to, like, because she's reliving some high school love experiences. Or
yeah. She wants her only plan is to go to Florida because she remembers having a good vacation there once. And she acknowledges this is stupid, but does it anyway because she can't think of any other plan.
Yeah, I don't, there's not a lot of points in Rhonda's basket here for intelligence, I have to say.
Yeah. So anyway, her with no longer term plan besides go to Florida, they escape, which is perhaps the last place I would choose in any scenario, least of all a zombie apocalypse, so...
Maybe the swamps will slow them down or something. I guess there's some strategy involved there, maybe.
I guess there's a lot of, unintentionally and intentionally released wildlife that gets pretty weird down there. You got your ball pythons, you got your alligators,
Sure.
Maybe
natural defenses.
Ooh, or maybe they all get zombified. That's actually worse. That's worse.
Yeah. Don't really need the zombie alligator coming after me.
All right. Well, while on I-95 en route to Florida, Rhonda is daydreaming and drives directly into a 2,000-pound bull.
Okay. Listen, this might be the stupidest protagonist we've ever encountered.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. All right, so
because there's not, there's not a lot of traffic on the highways right now. I'd imagine with like the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, no.
There might be some abandoned cars which you have to swerve to avoid anyway. So I feel like I should be pretty on my toes. What with all of that happening, and also like my zombie ex-boyfriend, now current boyfriend, in the back seat.
Yep.
I'd probably want to keep nice and awake to make sure he doesn't break the cuffs or what have you.
Nah. So this shears off the machine gun on the roof, and the Humvee is pretty fucked up, but seatbelts save her and Brad. Remember to buckle up, kids. Rhonda's dumb fuck mistakes compound, and she leaves all of her weapons inside the car, her keys in the ignition, and the doors all on auto lock when she gets out of the car to get some air.
Are we sure she's not rabid and like her brain has lost function?
No, we that is not included in the text. So, of course, this is when a bunch of Cujos spot her and run towards the car to attack. She gets up on the roof and defends her position on the Humvee's roof for a few seconds before making a run for the dismounted machine gun in the road. It's heavier than she anticipated, but thanks to adrenaline and keeping up with her workouts, she's able to spin fast and use centrifugal force to hoist it for a few seconds and kill a bunch of zombies.
Okay, some like cool Resident Evil super move shit happening there.
In her final salvo with the machine gun, she hits a Cujo who happens to be holding a 48-round can of grenades that fell out of the Humvee, which quickly solves her overall Cujo
that he
problem.
picked up? That the zombie picked up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. She shoots her own windows to get back into the car because zombie Brad doesn't understand that she needs him to unlock the doors.
Damn, dude. This is a real harrowing comedy of errors happening here.
After an hour of reversing and going forward in the ditch, she eventually gets the Humvee out and continues on her journey.
Rolled low on intelligence for this Fallout character here.
Yes. Rhonda stops at a Motel 6 in South Carolina to rest. Chris, how would you wind down in an abandoned Motel 6 after a long day of zombie battle?
Well, you got to find the highest. I know Motel 6s are usually like ground level for the most part, but there's probably like a second or third floor. You want to get up on the second or third floor, like, you know, barriers all over the place kind of thing. I guess I check if the water is running so I can like hose off all the zombie bits from the grenaded zombies that got on top of me. I would hope for running water after barricading everything to death, and there's no TV or anything, so I don't know, reading the Gideon Bible in the drawer or whatever.
Oh, God. All right, well, unfortunately, that's not what Rhonda does. Rhonda's rest entails chasing a peanut butter and ham sandwich with Heineken and a shot of Jack before passing out.
Peanut butter and ham, you say?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know. No,
that doesn't sound good.
Nope.
That doesn't sound good to me. I'm not going to try that.
She has a necrophilia sex nightmare about Brad, throws her watch away because time no longer matters, and buckles Brad into the trashed Humvee for the next stint in their drive.
Excuse me. Hold on a second. She has a necrophilia-based nightmare, so she doesn't like that idea of fucking a dead person.
Correct.
But she has still escaped with her zombie boyfriend because she likes him? She loves him enough.
Because true love. Because unconditional love.
All right, I'm just going to buy in. Let's keep it rolling.
Despite reflecting on all of her recent mistakes and dipping into some self-awareness on this part of the drive, she forgets this the moment she encounters a person on the road and is tricked by a very dumb ruse. Chris, what is the ruse that Rhonda falls for? This might be a little hard, but I'll give you credit for anything. No, I don't.
You know what? Based on her intelligence from before, I'm going to say it's the old look over there, and then you just grab her.
It's a little more complicated than that. So what's like one or two steps up from just look over there?
Look over there because there's something valuable, I guess, would be the next step where you give them a reason to look over there.
Yeah, right. Close. Not if you're trying to pull at someone's heartstrings to get them.
Your boyfriend is unzombified. You can fuck him now. Look over there.
No. All right. So the ruse is a guy claims that his kids are locked in his trunk and he needs help getting them out. Rhonda doesn't trust him at all and cites numerous reasons that this is an obvious trap. For example, there's like dust all over the car. It clearly hasn't been driven. She was like, why would kids have taken the keys to the car and locked themselves in the trunk? That doesn't make any sense. You know, why would this guy stop a stranger when people are wary of each other? You know, there's all these reasons. But she goes along with it anyway because she hears two small voices in the trunk. Her reward for this latest stupidity is to get pepper sprayed and kidnapped by this dude and the two little people who were posing as children in the trunk.
Cool.
Naturally, the small woman plans to rape her while the other two would rather just eat her. They duct tape her wrists together and take her to their evil hotel den.
Aha. Was it the same Motel 6?
No. They're further. She's further away from this is like,
Man,
I forget.
Motels getting a lot of business in the zombie apocalypse. If you can remain open after a zombie apocalypse, I bet motels would be popping off.
This cartoonishly evil group even keeps some Cujos just for fun in a basement pen to toy with and presumably rape, which doesn't make an ounce of sense. There are also two kids living here. The appearance of Rhonda somehow snaps them out of cowering fear, and the boy, Tyler, bashes the small woman with a mag light. This knocks the gun she took from Rhonda out of her grasp, causing Rhonda and the small man to squabble over it. Rhonda kicks him under the jaw and overturns a work table with kerosene and a lantern on it, which bursts into a wall of flame that quickly begins to engulf the moldering cardboard and wooden skiffs that line the basement for presumably action story reasons.
Man, that's a bunch of materials you really don't want next to each other.
Nope.
That's like okay, I'll keep the open flame next to the ignition material.
Yeah.
And let's give it a bunch of, you know what, the kindling can go down here too. In case if I'm starting a fire, I want all the stuff close next to each other, right? Like, I don't want to go to a separate building to get my kindling.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard out there. So in the chaos, Rhonda recovers her gun and is able to shoot the larger man while the other two kind of begin to rouse from their injuries. Rhonda shoots the lock on the Cujo cage. Rhonda shoots the lock on the Cujo cage and kicks the two little people toward it. They are presumably all eaten as Rhonda escapes with the kids, and the hotel goes up in flames behind them, 90s action movie style.
Sick. Where is Brad in all this? Was he left behind?
He's in the car. Yeah, he's in the Humvee. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, Rhonda took an arrow to the knee. I mean, a cannibal knife to the thigh during the fight, and must walk Tyler and his sister Ellen through helping her tend the wound before they can leave the area. The kids actually do a great job, but she does need to use a golf club as a cane to walk. They get back to the Humvee and Brad and drive off. Rhonda's leg starts showing signs of infection, and she eventually passes out while driving in Kingsland, Georgia. The kids wake her up, and she figures she needs to stop at a gas station to get supplies to treat her leg. She barely makes it a few steps from the Humvee and starts sweating, vomiting, and passing out in cycles. Cujos pour from the gas station as she is able to shoot them all except one enormous homunculus Cujo, which Ellen tackles with the golf club. So a
small child does this.
Took a golf club, like a 10-year-old girl is just like, I'm going to get this massive homunculus Cujo with a golf club.
I mean, I guess kudos to her, but at the same time, these were also the same kind of kids that got into a Humvee with a zombie in the back and were like, cool.
Well, they didn't.
We'll tag along.
No, they didn't know about him because he was just like chilling back there, and he had his sunglasses back on and stuff, and Rhonda has to explain to them on the drive, but they're just like, whatever, you saved us from those horrible people, so this is fine. Which honestly, like, I get, I feel like that's how anyone would react.
If I'm a 10-year-old, I'll be like, oh, okay, this is my only option.
All right, so Rhonda passes out again while Tyler and Ellen make quick work of the Cujos and clean and redress her wound.
Damn. Holy shit.
Yeah, those kids are hardened. They struggle onward to Jacksonville in dire need of gas and medical supplies for Rhonda. The Humvee runs out of gas a quarter mile from fully lit Everbank Field Stadium, home of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they're able to coast there in neutral.
Still gaming throughout all of this.
Fully lit stadium, 6 months after the outbreak. Don't understand. Yep, no idea.
They had a really fucking good backup power system, Harris. Like, you have no idea.
The generators go on for miles.
Dude, it's crazy over there. No matter what happens, sports is happening.
That's very American. It's true. So they're able to coast there in neutral despite running out of gas. Rhonda is barely conscious and not able to function, but the four of them manage to get onto the parking lot escalators and up to a luxury suite after facing hordes of zombie football fans, Jaguar players, and even the mascot.
Sweet.
Brad sacrifices himself to save Rhonda and the kids so they can lock the luxury suite. Despite this, the zombies break down the door and Rhonda is near death. She locks the kids in the bathroom and tries to lead the zombies away into the stands, but realizes the entire stadium is full and she is outnumbered 100-1. So, just as Blank is about to kill Rhonda, who is about to kill Rhonda? Chris.
it's her dad, right? Like her dad shows up and is like, "You're no daughter of mine. I was using this stadium to corral all the zombies for some weird military shit or something like that." So
Okay,
he's, like,
you are
showing
right
up.
that her dad shows up, but he's not who tries to kill her.
Ah, okay. Then it would be the original creepy rapist guy that she got sent on the mission with.
No. Just as the Cujoed Jacksonville Jaguars mascot is about to kill her with its oversized fluffy paws,
I
jets
see.
bomb the stadium.
Aha.
It's Colonel
Dad
Rondad
did
here to
show up.
save the day.
By bombing the stadium that his daughter is. Bomb is not really considered a like precision kind of thing if you're trying to like not kill one.
They bomb the field, which is where most of the Cujos have massed.
Okay.
He and his military friends bomb and gun down all of the Cujos and rescue Rhonda, the kids, and even Brad. How the fuck could her dad have possibly found her, you ask? Well, you see, the Humvee has a GPS chip in it, and satellites still work, so they just tracked her down.
Okay, I guess. Fine. You know what? I'll let that go.
Back at Fort Rocky, Doc operates on Rhonda and saves her leg, and the kids and Brad get all cleaned up for Rhonda's big wake-up reveal. Everyone's happy. Over the next few months, Rhonda opens a salon at the camp and personally apologizes to every single person there for her bullshit.
That's bare minimum, actually.
Unfortunately, Brad's necrorabies intensifies and he is no longer docile after these months pass. The day that Rhonda is fully healed and no longer walking with an aid, she must also kill Brad as he has become too dangerous. She adopts the kids and misses Brad as he will forever be her one true love. The end.
Wow. That what a journey. What a stupid protagonist. I'm struggling to think of a stupider protagonist that we've encountered.
Yeah.
Even Maya and Joey are a little brighter, I think, Paris. Like, they have some survival skills on them. I'm seeing
I
that
just
you
got
took
tea
a bad
everywhere.
time to take a...
Yeah, I just got tea everywhere. Oh my god. Yeah, it's,
Can you honestly think of any stupider protagonists that we've encountered?
I mean, I'm sure there have been, but it's hard for me to recall in the sea of stupidity. But yeah,
Maybe
Rhonda,
that, like, in that
ooh.
The Woman You Marry book, they were pretty ditzy in that one. So
Yeah. Yeah, that might be worse. But man, yeah. All right. So before I get to the rubric and talk about technical construction, do you have any questions? Need anything clarified?
no, I mean, that seems like a fairly straightforward sort of like schlocky zombie action plot there, right? Like, there's just that you need a mechanism for like how the zombie virus works. Although it's like unclear why Brad is semi-docile, and like, is it just anytime he's with Rhonda that he's docile? Does he like get upset at any point through the whole thing?
No, not until it starts intensifying toward the end. But I had the same question. That didn't. Why?
But
Why?
he's actively rabid. Is he like foaming at the mouth, making strange noises?
No, not until the last paragraph of the book when they're like, he got bad and she had to kill him.
Okay, so there's a sort of like ramp up of this type of rabies, whereas as far as I know, like real rabies...
No, there isn't. Only with Brad, which is why I was mad at the plot, but we'll talk about that shortly.
So it's the power of like Rhonda's love for, like, he likes Rhonda that much, even though they haven't seen each other for a long time. Maybe it's like he's getting like a little bit of a chub going, and like the blood drain from what limited blood he has is like rendering him slightly docile.
Yeah, I'll take it.
That's the only explanation I could take. Okay, that's really the only question I had here, because everything else seems, again, fairly straightforward zombie.
All right, let's get into technical construction. Typos, there were just like 3 or 4. It was pretty well edited. Formatting, honestly, totally fine. There were nice, snappy little chapters. It was easy to read. It was fast-paced.
No quotes at the start?
No. There is kind of an egregious mistake at the start. So I did like that there were no chapter titles. They were just numbered, which is fine. And there were like little sort of clip art images at the beginning of each one. They were fine. They weren't like great or anything, but they didn't hurt me. But the beginning, I did have a problem with, because the book... Okay. So Chris, if you were writing, a zombie romance action book like this, what lyric would you start the book with? Think about heavy music. Start the book with.
Okay. It's a zombie action book. Not eaten by bloodbath because it's about being eaten, right? So it's not like a zombie focused kind of thing. I'm trying to think of like all the zombie based death metal out there, like some Cannibal Corpse shit, maybe.
No, it's not. It's more love based, less brutal death or slam.
Heavy music that's love based to introduce a zombie
for this
book.
particular crowd.
For this particular crowd, I'm actually kind of stumped here, man.
Loving you was like loving the dead. Loving you was like loving the dead. Loving you was like loving the dead. Was like loving the dead. Peter Steele, typo negative. That is how the book starts.
I would have never gotten that. I've never listened to a typo negative song in my entire life because every single snippet of typo negative I've ever heard, I was like, oh, that's boring goth club loser shit. I'll see you later.
Oh no, typo negative's great, honestly, but I can see why you wouldn't like it.
It's got the like, aren't their vocals the style of it's like it's a guy being like, now I'm in a love with a vampire and we're gonna have vampires. Like it's like very monotone delivery kind of thing happening.
No, I mean, there are some parts where he talks, but he has a baritone voice, so it's very low, but he sings.
Okay. I've always had the impression that they're like a more baritone The Cure, which is like slightly more dour.
No, they don't sound anything like The Cure.
Okay. Then I have the wrong impression of typo negative.
Great. Well, we'll fix that later. But I just thought it was really silly because, first of all, it's the same line 3 times, and then half of that same line again. And because he wanted to do this so badly, he had to put a fucking credit and get lyric permissions from Universal to include it. And it's
that's funnier to me. It's like, listen, it really, the book doesn't work if I don't include this typo negative lyric up at the top. I have to do it.
Yeah, it just seemed needless. That was pretty silly. So in terms of like cover art and art direction, honestly, looks like a decent artist was hired. I don't know if you looked at the cover of the book. It does what it's supposed to do, I think.
Yeah, like lady with a gun and then like a rabid man.
Yeah, so now I'm going to draw your attention from, Rhonda and the zombie up above the title to the very top. And at the top of the book is a quote, and the quote is, Jeremy is a pretty impressive dude, from Peter Straub, New York Times bestselling author of A Dark Matter and Ghost Story. And like, I just thought that was like the funniest shit to have on a book. It's not a biography. It's not Jeremy Wagner's biography. I don't care if he's a cool dude.
Honestly, the whole book was just a vehicle for him to get that one quote up into the public eye. It's just like, listen, he thinks I'm cool.
Yeah, I just, Chris.
I would like to, like, if I ever release any material, like, I'm going to put that on the top of a Graveborn album now. Is like, this guy said I was cool.
So when I publish something, should I just put a bunch of quotes from my friends on the cover? Like, Paris is pretty
I'll
funny.
Say some shit.
So, Chris, my question for you is, what quotes would you want on your book that are irrelevant to its content, but that talk about how cool you are?
What if it was just a quote about, like, I saw Chris, like, do a 200-pound deadlift once? Like, it's not even that impressive.
Yeah, exactly. It's great.
It's like, okay, that's like, it's an accomplishment, but it's not like that. Like, I've never done a deadlift in my life. I'm more of a squat guy, so I.
But it's just such a fucking. It made me laugh for like a really long time. I just couldn't believe that.
Pretty fucking good, man.
Oh, it's pretty good.
Forgetting that, like, the purpose of a quote on the cover is to, like, entice you into reading the book for its content, not because, like, well, the author's cool.
Yeah, it's a weird tactic. It's
It's like if at the bottom of the book there was another quote that was like, I think the chug riffs in Broken Hope are red. It's like a review for a Broken Hope album instead.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. And I'm hoping it was done to be funny and not seriously, because I'm going to
choose that generous interpretation.
Yes. Let's be generous. All right. So anyway, God, I don't know. That quote really influences my scoring because it's so egregious, but I don't know. I think to be fair, I would give this a 1 for technical construction. It's certainly books.
Mm-hmm.
It was even well edited. Like I said, snappy, easy to read. So let's give it a 1. All right, plot construction. This section is a little long. I'm going to try to keep it snappy, just like these chapters were in the book itself. General coherence. Look, we got some problems here. Rhonda makes incredibly bad choices and should be dead, were it not for her dad
Some
or
of
Brad
the worst decisions we've
or
seen.
Like absurd strokes of good luck saving her at every turn. It's hard to believe in this scenario that she would have lived, so it's really tough to just get on board with the general plot.
It's hard to root for someone that dumb, right? Like, it's just really hard to root for someone that is making bad choice after bad choice after stupid choice.
I don't know if this was supposed to be, like, funny, but I didn't get that sense, but maybe that was the point. Like, oh, isn't it so silly that she keeps living? But I don't know, it wasn't funny. It just felt stupid to me. Especially when you could choose to give her a background that would allow her to make better decisions. And ostensibly, like, as the daughter of a Marine colonel who, you know, whose dad did educate her in the martial arts, let's say, maybe not martial arts the way we think about it, but, like, did educate her in terms of, like, how to use a gun and, like, kind of, like, how to do, like, tactical missions and stuff. It's a little surprising that she seems to just forget all of that the second she leaves the camp. Like, she just has no good sense.
Like, this dad has, like, the most disappointed stare at her probably at the end of the book. Like, man, you don't listen to anything.
And, like, there are good parts about Rhonda, which we'll talk about a little bit when we get to character quality. So I don't want her to be this badass who always knows the right thing to do, because that's, like, the other side of terrible, right? But I just think her character and the decisions she makes could have been more balanced and less, like, cartoonishly unfortunate that just make her seem like really dumb when she's not, though. Like she's, the way she's characterized otherwise is actually quite good. So it makes it actually even more confusing that she just keeps making bad choices. So I don't know. That was a big old hurdle that I couldn't quite.
Ostensibly for, like, your love for someone that you briefly dated, but, like, I don't think you told me how long they dated before.
They're high school sweethearts. So I think they dated in high school, broke up briefly, and then got back together. So, like, they've been together, for, I don't know.
And then the outbreak happened while they were still together, so she just
while
lost
they were
contact.
engaged. Yeah, while they were engaged.
Okay, I see.
And she got picked up by her dad and saved, and I don't know where Brad was at the time, but he wasn't with her, and they couldn't find him. Even though this is, like, I don't know why you couldn't just be like, hey, Brad, where are you? Let me call you real quick. I have no idea why they didn't save Brad too. That's a question. Anyway, yeah, that's never explained, which is also a little strange to me. But in terms of rules following, my main problems are, like, there's no reason Brad should be docile and still in love with Rhonda after contracting necrorabies when every other single person or animal who gets it is immediately aggressive and has no remnant of their former selves. It would have really helped the story if the author had just established that necrorabies is gradual. This plot hole could have easily been paved over with, like, 2 more sentences of expository asphalt. Like, I don't know why that step was really not taken. Very
obvious and easy thing to seal up.
Yeah, it just, dude, give me 2 sentences about how it's gradual. And they're like, great. Like, I don't know why we didn't do that. Another big one for me is, like, why are we told that Dr. Brightmore is on to something with treating Cujos, but he never actually attempts anything with Brad and we never hear about it again?
Yeah, and he wasn't really onto much, I'm guessing, on that one. He was like, I think maybe, what if I cut off their heads? Then they wouldn't be attacking anymore.
And, like, I know Brad was only in his care for about a day before Rhonda escaped with him, but you think he would have tried harder to experiment on him if, he really thought he had a decent idea to pacify the zombies. It's also odd that this doesn't come up again when Brad's zombiness intensifies at the end. Really would have been a perfect time for experimentation if Rhonda has to kill him anyway. This is another plot hole on this forsaken Massachusetts highway that could have been filled in if only the doc actually made an attempt, or if we bypass the whole thing entirely and discover Doc is only pretending to have ideas to treat zombies to help Rhonda out. Which, you could interpret the text that way, but, like, I don't know. To me, it's not really made clear. And also, like, even if that was the case at the beginning, when they come back and he starts a zombie out, like, why not just try stuff anyway if you have to kill him, right? Like, so it was kind of annoying that was just never come back to. All right, character quality. Weirdly, there's a lot of characterization given to a priest who is so useless to the overall plot that I didn't even include him in my summary.
Okay.
It's clear that the author is anti-Christian and wants to make a point about the hypocrisy of modern, like, Western Christianity, but it felt like a forced inclusion, even for me as somebody who probably shares his viewpoints. I just was like, why is this here? This has nothing to do with anything. Like, there's no Christianity or God or anything in the rest of the book. So this priest shows up in a couple chapters and he's like really shitty and harassing Rhonda. And I don't know. It's just filler, needless filler. Really, really unnecessary.
You know what? That's kind of what like some proselytizing can feel like. You know what? Maybe a little true to life. Just like random Christians barging in.
Importantly, Rhonda does have some depth, and I honestly like that she's not a superhuman badass. It's nice to have a very, like, regular main character instead of a femme fatale. Like, this bitch just wants to cut hair and have a Starbucks vanilla latte, and I support that.
Yeah.
Still, it makes her constantly surviving against all odds less believable. There could be a balance here. We can have an every woman main character, but maybe put her in fewer unreal scenarios to survive from. Like, there is so much evidence that she should not have fallen for the kids in the trunk ruse, and it is pointed out in the text. This whole debacle could have been different or skipped entirely. Maybe the kids are used in the ruse, and they decide to run to Rhonda for help, and she leaves with them, which means we get to skip the whole cannibal rape hotel saga, which would have been A-okay by me.
But hey, you know, if I'm not being in a slam death metal band to like write stuff about cannibal hotel rapes, like, you know, that's just using the skills that you have, I would say. So I would try to find a way to shoehorn that into my book, actually.
Well, it just didn't feel natural. Overall, I wish that Rhonda was just able to get out of jams, not due to luck or being saved by men, but because she's clever. Like, it's funny, but also unfortunate that she's sort of a bumbling idiot except for her ability to shoot a gun. And as a last little note, while I am glad that the author only mentioned her boobs once and we didn't spend time gawking at Rhonda's figure, it would have been cool if we got a little more detail on how, like, working out kept her stronger to face these troubles, or, like, what color her eyes or hair were, like, what her general style was, stuff she likes beyond rock music, vanilla lattes, and cutting hair. I don't know, anything to give her a bit of flavor that wasn't, hey, boob big, love dad and Brad, you know, like, I don't know. So she did have
the key features in a female character.
Yes, right. She did have decent characterization, but I would have liked it to go further. And again, the main problem is that she is not clever when she could have been, which really would have lifted this book up a bit. Lastly, in terms of character stuff, I'm just going to make a request. In general, can we not cast little people who are also gay as cannibal rape villains? Because, like...
Oh, yeah.
Society already treats these marginalized groups like shit and often makes them the villains, so I don't know if that's the best choice for your book.
Yeah. That doesn't feel great to me.
Yep. Yeah, didn't love it. All right. Moment to moment. Let's talk about prose quality and dialogue. I gotta say, honestly, the prose quality was decent for an action book. I'll read a couple snippets. Let me just find you here. I'm just going to read a few different samples from different places in the book. So this is right early on, the first chapter. Driscoll, we're set to fly out at 1300. Rhonda glanced at her wrist. She'd be airborne in 15 minutes. She met Sarge's stare and pursed her lips. Haven't we already picked apart every city and town in a 20-mile radius? I mean, we've saved a few, but we've lost more. That's why we're going out 30 miles, Driscoll. We're going beyond, and it's the first time we're going back since the outbreak. We gotta keep looking for survivors, doctors, news, food, and anything else to get that much closer to getting this shithole planet civilized, no matter what the cost. Rhonda figured Sarge would rethink cost once their numbers dropped from 200 people to 50. She sighed. Where are we going this time? Levendale. Rhonda gasped. No way. She couldn't. She didn't want to return to Levendale, her hometown turned horror city. Go back there? Back to that nightmare where everyone she loved, save her dad, had died? The idea made her choke. Sarge, I don't think I can. Bullshit, Driscoll. You're going. You think you're the only one who lost everything, new fucking soldier? You signed up for this shit. Every week I hear you say you want to nuke the zombie fuckers who killed your fiancé. Here's your chance. Hell on wheels, you're going. You're the best goddamn gun bunny we got. Rhonda nodded. Sarge was right. She had practiced hard to become a stellar artilleryman, or artillerywoman. She'd shown them, hadn't she? Every Marine boy at Camp Deadnut watched her hit a paper plate with a Type 5-shot group at 100 yards with 180-grain Silver Bear rounds from an AK-47. Not bad for a girl who matured with shooting skills she learned in country cornfields with Daddy and his mountain of firearms. She was a colonel's daughter with no interest in military service. Sure, she learned soldiering and weaponry from Dad, but it was all sport to her. Rhonda had also worked as a hairstylist at Sylvia's salon in downtown Levendale. Hair was another passion of hers, but like many people her age, she couldn't figure out what road to take in life. That was before the world changed. Guns were now her livelihood. Doing hair, wondering what jeans would fit her petite frame, or hoping Brad would bring her Starbucks to work didn't matter. Other things were more important, like her ability to field strip any piece of ordnance or weapon from a Colt 45 to a grenade launcher with quick speed. She gave great detail to every clean and lubricated part she took apart and reassembled. Guns and hair. She thought it sounded like a redneck Great Clips.
It's got some vibes to it.
Yeah, it's all right. Let me just scroll further in and find another. Oh, this is kind of like midway through. Rhonda glanced at Brad in her rearview mirror. He had remained quiet and sat stock still since they'd left Levendale. He hadn't said her name even once. From his seat, he'd maintained a perpetual gaze out his window, watched the countryside pass by without a blink. What mental transmissions occurred in his head? What thoughts could a Cujo have? Something must be happening inside their squalid circuit boards. Cujo motion, like normal human activity, called for some dynamic Operation Rain processes in order to function, right? Nothing in this world made sense to her anymore. Hot blood, she knew, didn't flow through their veins. The precious fluid just sat there like noxious oil inside their veins. Cujos didn't breathe, and their stomachs and intestines remained inactive organs, like their dead heart and lungs. If Cujos somehow digested the flesh they ate, she didn't want to know about it. She didn't want to think about Brad being one of those things. A frown formed on her face, and she held her breath in reflex. Gross. The interruption of her own voice did nothing to pause the all-new, high-resolution cerebral proofs on display behind her eyes. What would Brad excrete if he took a zombie dump? The thought made bile arise in Rhonda's throat, and she swallowed hot sandpaper. Why the hell couldn't she hypnotize herself and avoid these types of make-believe scenarios? Rhonda's eyes and thoughts lingered on Brad. With her focus off the road, and with her thoughts consumed with Cujos, her mind and reflexes didn't process the big thing in front of her. She didn't have time to brake or identify the dark shape that flashed in her peripheral vision for only a millisecond before impact. She hit the Hereford Bull at 80 miles per hour. She screamed and squeezed her eyes shut as her ungoverned and armored Humvee T-boned a 2,000-plus pound wall of beef. So she was thinking about zombie shit when she hit the bull. That was an important point I forgot.
Man, yeah, real low IQ moment happening right there.
This is when they're leaving the Motel 6. Brad sat in a corner of the room. There you are, relief flooded her. He wasn't the Dawn of the Dead version of her nightmare. He waited for her as he always had, ever handsome and undead. Bright sunshine sifted through dirty blinds, illuminating particles and languid constellations. Rhonda! Brad's voice brought Rhonda out of her daydreams. She smiled. The memory made her stomach turn. With a long yawn and a wide stretch, Rhonda stood and gathered her small inventory of belongings. She missed the old days when she woke with Brad, both of them nude, with her head on his broad chest and with her hair spread across his skin and their linens. Back then, daybreak began with drowsy and slow sex, followed by a light breakfast and coffee before she went off to work. She longed for coffee, and not that shit she'd been drinking for 6 months. She hated Camp Deadnut coffee. Miss Starbucks. She'd give her right tit for a venti vanilla latte right about now.
Okay, that is some characterization there, I would say.
Yeah, there were, I don't know, I guess that's probably fine. I don't know if I need to, maybe I'll find an action scene to read or something. Maybe the scene where they fight in the basement of the hotel. All right, this is the action that kind of kicks off everything in the basement of the evil hotel den, which allows Rhonda to escape with the kids.
Yes.
Rhonda already held an ocean of undiluted anger and disgust at these horrible little fucks. She was ready to jump in to help the girl at any cost, her bound hands be damned. But before she could leap into action, the boy set new events in motion on his own. Despite her tape-bound arms and sore eyes and shadowy lantern light, Rhonda was bent on kicking her tiny captors to death. But the boy, Tyler, beat her to the proverbial kick. As Patty dragged the young girl toward the Cujo pen, Rhonda watched in surprise as Tyler ran past Randy on the work table and came up behind Patty with his arms raised high and the large mag light clutched in his hands. Exerting savage speed and force, he walloped Patty's red-haired dome with the flashlight. Patty screeched in pain as her scalp and burgundy locks parted in a wide gash. A vibrant spray of blood followed the blow as maglite metal met cranial bone. I bet that fucking smarts. Tyler clubbed Patty again, and Patty screamed, releasing the girl as she stumbled from the blow and reached for her split head. She also dropped the .45 to the floor where it spun underneath the table. Randy released an outraged bellow, took a step forward next to Rhonda, and then froze. He looked confused and scared. "You're not the boss of us! You're not the boss of us, you hobbit, bitch!" Tyler chased Patty and pinned her. He stood over her and beat her again with the maglite. Rhonda couldn't imagine what horrors Tyler and his sister had been through, but just 1 hour down here was hell. She was surprised the kid hadn't snapped and beat his captor silly before today. No matter, payback had arrived. Rhonda turned to Randy. His shrieks cut off when he saw her liberated .45 automatic spinning under the table. Randy flicked his gaze to Rhonda's eyes, and she found desperation and uncertainty in his beady little orbs. He scowled and bared his mule teeth at her. "Don't do it!" Rhonda gave Randy a clear order. But unsurprisingly, the little creep didn't heed her. He squealed and dove toward the work table, attempting to get his small mitts on the sidearm. Rhonda kicked her foot out, and the toe of her boot caught Randy under the chin and slammed his head hard into the table's underside, forcing Randy and the heavy table to flip together, scattering junk across the floor, lost among human remains. Whoops. Rhonda watched the dislodged lantern smash as she went for her .45. Kerosene spread and burned over the floor. Unbound flames flickered and popped, adding an eerie and sinister glow to the Chamber of Horrors. Randy landed on his back. He rolled and staggered to his feet, holding his head and jaw. Blood poured from his small mouth, and Rhonda watched him try to speak. He bellowed forth words carried on a spray of red. "It's nothing." Fucker must have bit his tongue. Perhaps, she hoped, it was severed in two. Tyler continued his maglite assault on Patty's back as she wailed for mercy. Beyond Tyler and Patty, Rhonda spied Tyler's terrified younger sister. The girl hid in a corner, crouching with her face pressed into a wall. The Cujos were going nuts in their slave pen, perhaps frenzied by the bloody action before them. Rhonda went for a .45 and caught Randy's movement. She faced him as kerosene flames grew larger. She watched Randy spit out a large blob of stringy blood that reflected the flickering firelight. He bared crimson-smeared mule teeth at her before snatching a large knife from the detritus of the bone-littered floor. He shrieked and waved a dirty and pitted blade at Rhonda as he charged, desperate. He again dove for Rhonda's unsecured sidearm. This break in Randy's awkward gait gave Rhonda time to move. She stepped to her .45 and dipped with ease and rose again with her sidearm gripped in her bound hands like a fishing stork with a powerful, high-caliber frog. Randy belly-flopped in front of Rhonda and landed hard on his ample gut, expelling a painful, bloody bark. Having missed his chance to get the gun, he wailed and swiped at Rhonda with his knife, but caught only the toes of her combat boots with the blade tip. Rhonda aimed at his head, but he twisted, and she ended up blowing a large hole through Randy's right shoulder. He released the knife and roared in a high-pitched caterwaul of misery. Remarkable how such a small man can make such a noise. Rhonda kicked Randy's knife away and sought the kids. Gotta get them out of this hellhole. Heavy kerosene smoke had begun filling the room as the flames licked and ignited the molding cardboard boxes and skids along the walls. "Tyler, stop! Grab your sister!" Rhonda pushed her voice above the little people's screams. Tyler didn't seem to hear her, so she kicked Patty out of the way and faced him. "We're getting the fuck out of this place. Get your sister and head upstairs. Use your flashlight." Tyler looked confused for a moment and then snapped to attention and nodded. He appeared winded, no doubt from the beatdown he dished out. He clutched his maglite like a war club and stood down as Patty bled and crawled to her collaborator, who remained face down on the floor moaning in agony. Rhonda glanced at the girl balled in the corner of the psychotic realm. Tyler ran to her and pulled her to her feet. "Come on, Ellen, we're running away." Tyler led Ellen towards the stairs, and Rhonda watched the kids until they disappeared into the small and dark corridor and staircase beyond. Fire crackled and something moved behind her. She spun and thrust her taped wrists out with her .45 pointed straight ahead. Patty and Randy stood, albeit unsteadily, in front of the Cujo pen, their tiny forms flashing yellow and red in firelight. Their pet Cujos hissed behind them and attacked their enclosure with mindless fury. Patty had reclaimed her pipe, and Randy his knife. Their eyes sparkled in faces twisted by hate. "You ain't getting away with this!" Patty's voice was ripe with absolute anger and pain. She waved her pipe. "You dumb bitch!" "Fucking..." Randy strained words through his crimson mouth. The bullet hole in the front of his right shoulder bubbled with blood. On Randy's last and unintelligible word, he and Patty threw their respective weapons at Rhonda. Patty's pipe missed Rhonda's head by inches, but Randy's rusty knife found a final destination in Rhonda's right leg above the knee. The blade cut clean through her camo pants and flesh with ease. It thwacked inside her, every sharp and filthy inch penetrating deep in her muscle. "Fuck!" Rhonda's leg failed her, and she fired as she fell to the floor. She landed hard on her right knee. A sudden warm and sharp pain flamed between her kneecap and crotch. Rhonda's sudden loss of balance had knocked her aim off, and she missed the stunted sadist. Despite being an expert markswoman back at Camp Deadnut, firing at moving targets with bound wrists while falling with a knife in her leg was a whole new dilemma. Patty and Randy scattered, but Rhonda saw a different opportunity. Blinking away pain, and with precise aim, she fired a round into the padlock on the Cujo pen. The lock exploded into fragments. Patty and Randy whipped their heads around to the Cujo pen with new expressions of alarm on their sour apple faces. The captive Cujos shook their pen, and Rhonda watched the undead cellmates pause in their rage. They turned their attention to their cage door, which slowly opened on its own with a loud metallic squeak. Some type of comprehension sparked in their deceased gray matter, and Rhonda watched their bile-colored eyes widen as their cell door opened, and they found their captors within biting distance. "I'm out of here!" Patty power-waddled to escape. "Fuh!" Randy's terrified bellow filled the burning horror chamber. He limped behind Patty and followed her toward nearby freedom. No fucking way! Rhonda forced all her weight onto her left leg. As Patty moved in range, Rhonda sidekicked the little beast with her wounded right leg. Despite the knife blade sticking out of her agonized leg, Rhonda nailed Patty's throat as hard as she could with her combat boot. "Who's the fucking dumb bitch now?" Patty's broken body slammed into Randy, and both tumbled back into the fiery room to rest at the freed Cujo's feet. Rhonda turned and limped toward the stairs as quickly as her wounded leg would carry her. She didn't look back, ignoring the horrible noises coming from behind her. Anyway, pretty long scene.
All right,
there you
there's
go.
that slam death influence happening in there. That's
Yeah.
like straight up a song from there. And like, Rhonda seems more capable from this reading just because she's, doing action movie hero shit.
Right.
Kicking people in the throat, landing shots, even though she's not perfectly landing shots. So it's incongruous with the rest of her decision making.
Yeah, and so I think that's good enough for examples for both prose quality and dialogue. I feel like believable dialogue, for this kind of, for like an action book. This isn't winning any awards for brilliant introspection, but like it's decent enough. Our characters get colored the right amount. And I think the prose is okay. It's pretty decent. Like there is an ability to write here. So I'm going to give that a big old 1 for prose quality and dialogue. All right, Terriblo's Presence. For chaos levels, I feel like this is pretty standard zombie apocalypse stuff, so everything was pretty normal. Nothing weird. Levels. How many times did I have to go back and read again to make sense of what had just happened? There were some problems that I already told you about. The whole, like, why is Brad docile? Why does Rhonda make bad decisions when she has, like, tactical training and stuff? I don't know. It's kind of weird. The other big one for me was right at the end. I was like, how is the electricity still on in that giant stadium if more than 99% of the U.S. population has become undead? Who is keeping the grid running in Jacksonville, Florida? I would love to know.
One very docile electrical engineer zombie just still clocking in.
Yeah, so that was a little confusing. And there were no times where I had to contact you for help. There was no like, please help. So Treblo, I don't really know. Treblo was like sort of here a little bit, but not really.
It doesn't seem like it to me, to be honest with you.
So this was a 1 because there was no Trebloing.
Okay.
All right, should this exist? Would readers of this genre enjoy this? Probably. If you're somebody who likes zombie stuff, this is probably for you, I guess. I don't really know. It's kind of hard for me to tell because I'm not interested in this kind of fiction. So
yeah, and it's not even necessarily stand out in zombie fiction, which is already like super gory. So that like slam death kind of influence in things might not necessarily stand out as much as, they go together, right?
That's what I mean. I feel like if you're looking for a zombie story, I guess this is here. Do we feel as if the author's goal was met? Probably.
Sure. Again, it seems as schlocky as the book that I read in the previous episode. Like, not really trying to be literally brilliant, but like clearly I'm not. But like doing its job.
Yeah. Does it add anything new, interesting, or novel? No, absolutely not. It's kind of your standard stuff. Did it take something from us? Nah, it's pretty easy and quick to read. Didn't really hurt me too bad. What should someone read instead of this? I honestly don't know. I don't like this. Like, I am not into zombies. Zombies are like this one realm of horror that I'm just absolutely no. The only zombie movie I've ever loved is One Cut of the Dead. So if you've never seen that, I would recommend seeing One Cut of the Dead. It's really fantastic. you are going to start that film and say, Paris, you're fucking insane. I'm not finishing this. You should finish the film. Yeah, one cut of the dead.
Yeah, I also don't read like zombie-based books.
Yeah, it's
like
just
I'm just
not
like.
I don't know what it is.
Remember when there was a trend, like there was like Pride and Prejudice and zombies, like a decade or so ago, and like every time I looked at that, I was like, I don't get it. Like, I just don't understand. You would think like the death metal guy in me would be drawn to that, but
same.
Wasn't.
Yeah, it's just not for me. Although I do love Bloodbath, and I do love the song Eaten.
Sure,
but, that's
maybe
where
our fill of this from our music instead of our like fiction and book reading here. So I don't know. Listen to Cannibal Corpse instead if you want to experience other zombie media.
My one desire, my only wish, is to read other things. Yeah, I don't know. This whole thing is not for me. So I'm not really sure what to recommend instead of this. To be honest, I thought about it and I was like, I got nothing like for zombie stuff. I really don't know.
Death metal. Just like listen to any fucking like chuggy slammy band out there, man. Like,
Chris, that's not a book. That's not a book.
Sure, but a movie isn't a book either. You can recommend a movie, so I don't see where the line is, Paris.
All right, fine. All right, I really don't know. This isn't really a book for me, so it's hard for me to tell. All right, can we fix it? Yeah.
Let's score it first, Paris.
Oh, sorry. You usually keep track of scoring, so I don't see.
Oh my God. For once, can you remember your scores?
I forgot to
Technical
give plot
construction was a 1. I believe plot construction was a -1. I didn't
score it.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I
Sounded
would
like a
give
-1.
I would give plot construction -1. Moment to 1, Treeless Presence to 1, Should This Exist is, I don't know, 0, I guess.
Okay. So we had 1 for technical construction, -1 for plot construction, 1 for moment to moment, 1 for Cerebralist Presence, and 0 for Should This Exist. So it's a 2. Again, we're getting a lot of 2s right now. It seems like Schlock rates a 2 on our scale.
I feel like that's about right.
Yeah.
So, can we fix it? Yeah, this is largely just like a reverse Last of Us with the added element of like a love-struck zombie. It's painless and mostly inoffensive, but it did have some moments of distaste that could have been avoided. Like, there were a couple of slurs in this that only appeared once, but I was like, it didn't need to be there. You know, it's like there are times when, of course, it is fine when you have to characterize, bad characters, unethical characters. Like, you need to show people, saying stuff like this, and that's fine. But in the context of the book, it felt it could have easily been avoided. So
yeah, fair.
I guess I don't need to say them, but like there were just a couple, I think there were 2 that I was like, that could have just not been done. It could have easily been fixed. And same, like, can the little people and the one lesbian not all be murderous, cannibal rapists? That would be cool. I don't know. I just felt like that felt kind of gross.
Seemed like that passage you read really focused on their physical features as being sort of indicative of evil.
Yeah, I really found that rough. Again, which is like another reason why I was like, I wish we had just bypassed this whole section with like, again, there are ways to do it, and you still chose this for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
So, the slam death genre is one of shock value, right? And I think there is some element of, or people out there that are like, a small person, haha, this like adds a layer of some like extra shock to things.
Fucking sucks. I'm sorry. Like, that stuff really like bugs me. So I just feel like we can move past that. It's 2025. Like, we've had decades of media like this. I just want it to be different. I want people to think a little harder when they make stuff like this. So, yeah, I just think this really could have been written in a way that elevated it. And instead, it was just we just kind of stayed at base level, so nothing special here.
I agree.
All right. Well, that's that. That's Rabid Heart.
All right. Thank you so much, Paris, for recounting that tale for us. Shout out to our patrons, including our lurkers on Patreon. We're going to give them another shout out this episode. That we can see that you are currently donating, but still grace us with your watchful gaze. We're watching you too. Thank you to 50, Anna, Anya, Arendt, BB89, Carol, Caroline, Eldridge, Nemo, George, Gray, John, Katie, Kristen, Last Man on Earth, Robin, Samantha, Throttle 19, and Zoe. And of course, our paying patrons, like our bad bookworms, Ben, Donnie, Emily, Jakob, Jared, Scott, and Will. Our exacting editors, Kieran, David, D, Emmy, Funny Robot with Antennas, Greg, Harry, Seven, Martin, Root Beer Cutie, and the Ugly One. Our loathsome librarians like Veronica, Beast with the Least, Yanka, Luchek, Patricia, Julius, and Of the Void, the taco-eating unicorn of the Hot Springs. And of course, our pesky publishers, Miles, Austin, Patrick, and Fred. As well as our Ko-fi donors like Mark, Tracy, and our ever-faithful Kiwi Thing, and Excavating Lizard, along with Martin F. Brenna and Matthew, who relieved us of terrible books. If you want some terrible books we've read for the show, you can buy them over on our Ko-fi page. Unfortunately, Rabid Heart is a digital copy that we have, but you can get Lunar Justice, which we read for our last episode.
Yeah.
All right, Paris.
I don't know, Chris. Do you want to read? Do you want to read Jeremy Wagner again? He has another book called Armageddon Chord, which is about like musician stuff. I forget actually.
That's very close to George R.R. Martin's Armageddon Rag. Actually.
Oh my god. Yeah. So apparently it includes an evil Egyptologist, a scheming billionaire, and a guitar maestro. So it is a
maestro.
Yeah, it's a pulp fiction, so we could return to the Wagner-verse at some point if we wanted a different flavor.
I would like to see if all his protagonists make very stupid decisions. That's just like his style. It's just like idiot protagonist.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But anyway, thank you for joining me on this pick that was kind of just on a whim. I was like, I just want to read something another metal musician wrote and see how it goes.
Of course. So. Yeah. All right. Well, I will allow myself to drift off into daydream land and ram into a 2,000-pound bull. Which is just going to be the next terrible book that I read. It's actually just going to be a large bull that I slam face first into. And that is the experience I will recount for you.
All right. Great. Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you, listeners. And we will see you in 2 weeks.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Ugh, Chris.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Terrible Book Club. Terrible Book Club is an independent podcast produced by your hosts, Paris and Chris. Sound design and audio editing by Chris, with sound effects and music by Epidemic Sound and sometimes also Chris. Our theme song is Kiss by Yearn, which is, you guessed it, actually also Chris. You can find more of his soothing synthy sounds on Bandcamp at yearn.bandcamp.com. Do you want us to review a book of your choice on the show? Do you want access to some extra audio-visual weirdness? If so, become a patron at patreon.com/terriblebookclub. If you'd like to send us a one-time tip instead, you can do that at ko-fi.com/terriblebookclub. You can also support TBC for free by sharing the show on social media, following our accounts on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or Goodreads, telling your friends about your favorite episode, or by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or anywhere else on the internet. To send us book recommendations or your adorable pet photos, send an email to terriblebookclub@gmail.com.